Did you know that the Gardener's Workshop offers online courses? Whether you're a gardener or a flower farmer, we cover it all, allowing you to increase your skills at your own pace. So check out our full list of courses today at thegardenersworkshop.com. The Gardener's Workshop, turning all thumbs green.
Hey friends, welcome back to another Field and Garden podcast. It is your friend in flowers, Lisa Mason Ziegler, and thanks for dropping in. I just have to mention I am in southeastern Virginia, and I just walked from one building here on the farm to the other, and it feels like spring. I know it's not going to last, but my hopes were heightened. My heart skipped a beat, and it was as welcome as flowers in May, y'all. I just can't even tell you. I'm going to have to go for a long walkabout with my dog, Tucker, around the farm after I am done recording this. So I hope you get to experience that feeling soon. So friends, if you're new here, I want to just take a moment to personally welcome you. Thanks for dropping in. I know you have a lot of choices, and I always appreciate it when you give an ear to what I'm sharing. And friends, this podcast is made possible by thegardenersworkshop.com. That is like home base to everything that we do, from our sister podcast, Seed Talk, to our fully stocked online garden shop where you will find the tools, seeds, and supplies, my books, all the things you hear me mention from time to time here in my podcasts. And we also have a full online library of courses to help you get started, whether you're a home gardener with a little cutting garden and seed starting, to a flower farmer that is launching their business, or the flower farmer that wants to expand their business. We got you covered. That's what we're all about. It's kind of what we eat, sleep, and breathe over here at the Gardener's Workshop. And we appreciate it when the day comes that you have a need that you consider us. So friends, today I want to talk about something that I never thought of when I was first starting out. It totally took me on a side road for years in my business. What I'm really talking about is, are you a part-time flower farmer planting for a full-time flower farmer? That is the basic bottom line. You know, what does your planting plan, or your garden, if it's already planted, say you are? And I'm just going to jump in here, right? I could just lament on this for a really long time, because I see this as a really big bullseye that most of us hit. So flower farmers are particularly good at this, almost without exception. We start stacking the cards in favor of failing as commercial flower growers by doing this. We start digging the grave for our business before we ever give it a chance to really be successful. And y'all, you'll understand this as I get into this, but I mean this in the truest, most honesty from my heart. I truly believe this. This issue that I'm talking about today is the beginning of the end for most people that try to be a flower farmer. So probably no surprise to you, it's hard to start a business. You know, with flower farming, it can be extra tough because, you know, most folks, I think, are like I was. I was basically, y'all, a gardener gone wild, right? You know, I had no real starting a business experience. We jump into this because we absolutely love everything about gardening. You know, getting hot and dirty, digging, planting, harvesting, being outdoors. You know, most of us aren't afraid of hard work, and actually we thrive in those conditions. Those are great gardeners. Great gardeners make great flower farmers. We're hustlers, right? And you know, all of these traits are the perfect DNA match for a potential flower farmer. But, capital B-U-T, but it's these very traits that also lead us straight down, I should call it the red brick road, not the yellow brick road. to business disaster. We start digging the grave or the hole, however you want to think about it. So we sail right past the reality check of how many hours do we have in a day or in a week to work that we have available to do this business. What do? We go straight to the seed and bulb catalogs, right? I mean, I get it. I understand. We plan the end of our business without knowing it with our overzealous gardener. I don't want to use the word mindset. That is such a buzzword right now, right? But with our gardener glasses on is what I like to say, or you're thinking like a gardener, right? So beyond this excitement that we're going to be garden shopping as our job, because that's what we're thinking, right? I mean, I have actually talked to people that have said that out loud. Most of us, I think, are like, holy cow, you mean I'm going to be able to peruse the seed catalogs and I'm actually doing part of my job/business? Well, we have at that point in time, that's what we're kind of thinking, right? But we have no idea what it really takes to start and grow a successful flower farm and business. But let's just cut right to the chase, or here's the rub, y'all. Starting a flower farming business is not just growing a giant garden of beautiful flowers, because I do believe that is the illusion that we're all under, and that's okay, but we have to wake up from that illusion. And that's what I'm hoping that this podcast is going to I'm hoping somebody is sitting there saying, well, maybe, yeah, I did that, because I want to say this is the rope to pull yourself out. You can recover. But that's the point. You have to know that you have something to recover from, right? So, when I'm having conversations with friends like Dave Dowling, and I can remember a distinct one with Jenny Love, because I think we actually many years ago did a podcast where we lamented on this topic. We all agree as professional cut flower growers that have been there, done it, which just means we've already screwed up and wasted a lot of money, that we agree that the growing the flowers portion of a flower farm and business is only about 25% of what's needed and done in a successful flower farm and business. Let me say that again. We agree that growing the flowers portion is only about 25% of a successful flower farming business. So you may be thinking, what's the other 75%? Well, friends, that's the business part of it. That's the part that the people are most afraid of, they're most scared of. So instead of facing and pushing through the fear, they just keep growing more and more flowers. And then, we won't even go down that spiraling dark hole, right? So not thinking of our gross underestimation of our time is the first shovel digging that hole that will become the grave for the end of our business. And, or maybe it's your wannabe business. Some people just don't even ever get to launch. They just get so stuck in the planning part of growing, not the rest of it. And so this could really be not taking what I just said to heart. That number may be up or down depending on you, where you are, what you're doing, but that number is a real number, that the growing the flowers is the smallest portion of a flower growing operation, right? So how to avoid digging that grave, or at least digging it slower, right? What that takes is a really realistic look at how big of a garden you are planning and planting versus your available time and resources. I think it would be a great opportunity for yourself If you've already planned out your garden, but you hadn't really thought about how much time and resources you have, if you've planned that out, if you are aspiring, this is a rabbit hole, y'all. If you are aspiring to be a flower farmer, this would be a great social post to talk about how you grossly overestimated how much you could do. And you know what I mean? So I'm always about making lemonade out of lemons, y'all. Make the most out of it. So how do you avoid or slow down digging the grave for your business? That is to really take a look at what you are planning and planting versus your available time and resources. So I feel like I should say at this point, just to not crush anybody's spirit that might just be on the edge. And I know I've been there. I just got called out on something this morning by somebody that I don't know them. It's in another business. And it like totally crushed me. And I thought, Lisa, what a ding-a-ling. Just get over it and move on. So I do want to give a word of encouragement while you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to grow all the beautiful things that I wanted to grow. Friends, here it is. You don't have to plant every single flower that you want to grow out of the gate in your first season, or maybe even your second season. You know, you're hoping to start a business here, right? You have nothing but opportunities in your future. And I also want to mention here that if you master succession planting, you do get to plant a heck of a lot more flowers and different colors and different varieties than you ever think. But here we go. You don't have to plant it all. You know, we're hoping to have many seasons to come, right? So I want to grow it all now mentality is the whole that people jump in and sink fast and they just dig deeper and deeper and deeper. So what are my suggestions to get off to the best start, right? Answer this question before you plant every square foot of garden space that is available to you. How many hours a week do I have available to give to this business? And I'm going to pause right now on my talking points here. And I want to say, you know, that's something, the first class in flower farming school, there's 6 classes, and each class is made up of a bunch of sessions, right? The first class in flower farming school is about getting the business set up. And I was really scared to put that class first because it's not like about beautiful flowers. It's not about how to grow them. It's about this business side of things, right? And one of the exercises in there is about how you figure out what are you spending your time doing. And I want to say to you, you may look at this and say, so how many hours a week? Well, golly, I barely have 2 hours a day to give to a flower farming business. Well, first off, that won't cut it. You know, y'all, I'm all about real talk this year. I am not sugarcoating anything, but I bet you that if you do some of those exercises, you're going to find that you really have a lot of wasted time. And I'm talking about during your working time, that you really have more hours than you might think. So, all right, back on point here. So you really have to figure out how many hours a week do I have available to give to this business? And when we give ourselves an honest answer to this, it's really easy to see that how much we plant is the beginning of our success or the end of our flower farming business. You know, I mean, it's like, I'm going to tell you down here, we're going to get to it in a minute, what I suggest as far as size goes. But when you really take a hard, realistic look at what you really have available or what are you willing to make room for, it's an eye opener, y'all. So before I give you my take on that, how big a garden you should plant as related to your time available, I want to just take us on a little preview story walk when we aren't realistic about our time and our resources as we're heading into starting a flower farming business. And I have seen this play out over and over and over again. So the first one is out of the gate, and I see this take more people out. Going over budget shopping before they've even started. So that literally, friends, is yet another hole you start to dig. We're digging yet a second hole to bury our business in. You're so far behind on creating a profit in your business that it makes it even harder to overcome. That is a hole that some people never proceed beyond that point. They just can't see it. And that, by the way, is a behavior, not a circumstance. That is a created situation, right? All right, here's another one. One of the weeds that I consider as a result of this overspending out of the gate is that it can suck the morale out of the person that is your biggest supporter and fan on this journey. Most often, that's like a spouse or like a sister or, a partner, somebody that's like, whether they're financially backing you or more importantly, there to help you work through stuff, the person that really has your back. For me, that's Steve, right? They get tired of the belly aching over when you create debt or money that's overspend and you have no money left to do the rest of the project. People get tired of that, and you totally created that situation. I want to say that I believe that your biggest fan has got to be somebody connected to you somehow, and that person plays a significant role. I truly believe that having that person is a key piece of success. Because let me tell you something, you're going to be in the ditch a lot and you need somebody to throw you a rope and pull you out, right? Okay. So belly aching over the first mistake you made, going over budget, overspending, using all your money up, or worse yet, charging it on a credit card. They just get tired and just kind of lose hope like you do usually. And then comes the garden part. You're so overwhelmed and attempting to keep up with the day-to-day, whether that's planting, seed starting, weed prevention. And then, of course, comes the harvesting, the bunching, and the delivering. These are all the other parts of the business. You're never done. You will never, the day you begin to be a flower farmer, you never complete all the tasks on your to-do list, right? That's got to be on your radar to know that. So are so overwhelmed, oh my gosh, because you have just overcommitted yourself. Then comes the part that I believe strangles us. You can't see the problems you've created. The business weeds get so overgrown that you just can't see the trees for the forest, right? You're so hot and so exhausted, and then add scared if you've overspent, and you're overwhelmed to even think about or to see what the problem of overplanting is for your time available. I mean, it's like for somebody else that walks onto your farm, it's like it's so obvious to them what's happening. But to you that is there just trying to get out of the hole, you just can't even see it. And I understand that. And oh yeah, do you remember that you're supposed to be finding customers and selling flowers? Do you know what I mean? It just piles on. In general, I just want to say that I don't have a concrete number, but from what I see as a teacher over 2.5 decades of leading people in starting and building flower farming businesses, the vast majority of people that go this path don't make it out. They get crushed and they quit in their first season. A few might make it to their second season. And I want to mention that oftentimes the people that you see that are saying you can't make money or you can't do this or you can't do that or it's a bunch of fluff, those are the people that have taken this journey. Unbeknownst to them, did they know that there are other ways to do it, right? Those people just crash and burn and quit. And there are a few extraordinary people that push through it and come out on top. And these extraordinary people, I want to say, and I'm not saying that I'm extraordinary. I am one of these people. I mean, I did everything wrong. I had so many failures. And if it hadn't been for Steve Ziegler pushing me, challenging me, funding me in the beginning, I would have never made it through this, y'all. I would have never made it. But let me just say this. These extraordinary people models aren't smarter. They aren't more educated. They don't have more resources necessarily. They have what I call is grit, which I just did a podcast about that. These are people that just keep getting up every single day and pushing through, facing the stuff that's scaring them to death, knowing they're not going to die from it, facing it and pushing through, doing the work in spite of failure after failure. Y'all do know that failures are required to succeed in business. And this is actually a recipe for an excellent business owner, by the way. I mean, that is the person that comes through this is extraordinary. But I'm here to tell you that 99, 95, 91% of the people that come into this funnel don't make it out the other side when they go this journey. And I understand it. It is hard. So how can you know how much garden you can manage, right? Isn't that the really big question? So as a really general rule, y'all, there are so many points that would make this change. But as a general rule, when I got started back in 1998, I read that a full-time work week, which they referenced was like 40 to 50 hours, which is, low really for a self-employed business owner in general, much less a flower farmer, which is 40 to 50 hours a week. One person could take care of and maintain a 1 acre garden. Now, a 1 acre garden is big. That's 40,000 or so square feet. That would be like a 200 by 200 foot garden. That's huge, y'all. That is blooming huge. So I don't believe, now that I'm on the other side of all of this, I didn't have an acre first to start with, thank goodness, or I never would have probably made it through. I don't believe that it's realistic for one person to maintain a 1 acre garden and do the business part within that 40 to 50 hours. I don't think that's possible. Perhaps over time, once you're very experienced and you have streamlined, but that would come after several seasons. And I don't believe it's a very realistic goal for anybody to think that that's within your realm. And I don't think it's within your realm because I can already feel people's wheels turning. I don't think that you're qualified and experienced enough as a first year or a second year flower farmer, probably, to hire people. You don't even know what you're doing yet. How are you going to lead other people, right? So that's like not the solution. It's not necessary. So my first garden was 2 separate gardens because of the way that, our home was. We didn't have much land, 2 quarter acre gardens. And I would be willing to even say, I don't think they were full quarter acres. They were a little bit smaller. So when I started, while I did do it part-time for 2 or 3 years, I'm talking about when I went to the next step, when I quit my job and I went full-time, because those 3 years of part-time in it were crazy for me. I mean, it was really, really hard. And I didn't learn much because I was too overwhelmed. So I'm not even chalking that up, right? So when I quit my job at Denby Animal Hospital and started to do this full time, it was more like 50 to 60 hours a week. And I'd be even willing to push a little bit more than that. And that's 2 quarter acre gardens. And we're going to talk about size here in a minute. 50 to 60 hours a week. And I did everything. I mean, I did it all. I was seed starting, I was planting, I was mulching, all by hand. Y'all remember, back then I had no help, had no tractor. Everything was done with a shovel and a wheelbarrow and a walk behind tiller. I had great thighs, no question about that. But that was also the time period that was the highest profit or the highest per square foot dollar I made because I was incredibly efficient, because I was doing it all by myself. And it almost killed me. I mean, my goodness, guys. I mean, I couldn't get all the flowers harvested during the non-heat of the day. For instance, I can remember cutting flowers in the middle of the afternoon, which we don't do that now. We figured that part out. I almost died cutting zinnias on a 95-degree day, right? It almost killed me. So I was also selling to florists. I was attending the Williamsburg Farmers Market on Saturday, which was a very busy market. I was doing bouquet subscriptions, and I had my members only market. I hustled 6 days a week for long days. And if you have a supportive spouse like mine did, that not only was agreeable to eat cereal for dinner sometimes, he cooked. And if he hadn't done laundry, I'd have never had clean underwear. I mean, honestly, I totally abandoned my home. And if you have no other obligations like children, which I did not have kids, you could try this. You could do it. I came through, but all the cards were aligned for me. I had an incredibly helpful, supportive spouse, and I already kind of had my business selling going on, right? But I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it at all. And that was 2 quarter-acre gardens, which people hear that and think, oh, that's so small. We were producing 4,000 to 6,000 stems of flowers a week then. How did I know that? Because my primary source of selling was to florists. They all had to be invoiced, so everything was tracked. So if you have more like 20 to 30 hours a week to devote to starting a business, which is the majority of sane people, they're looking to add a side hustle or a part-time job or to enrich their life. If you want that more of a side hustle thing, not a job that literally takes you and your life over, this is what I would do to do a part-time startup. So first off, I would consider an eighth of an acre or less as an ambitious start. An eighth of an acre is approximately 5,000 square feet. And I rounded that down. I think it's 5,000 and some odd number. But for us, we're just going to say 5,000. So that's an equivalent, y'all, to a 50-foot by 100-foot garden, right? That's big. That's a lot. That's like 20, is that right? 20 50-foot beds. So that's 20 50-foot beds. That's a lot of beds. That's a lot of flowers. And when you succession plant, that just spreads out the workload, like seed starting and planting. And most importantly, it spreads out the harvest. So in my humble opinion, do consider an eighth of an acre or less. Don't consider bigger than that when you're first starting out. And it's really interesting that I wish I could find it. I have 2 or 3 students for flower farming school that were actually successful vegetable farmers, you know what I mean? They did farmers markets and they were in it. One of them, I remember, had been doing it for like 25 years. And they came to flower farming school because they so didn't understand how the whole thing worked. And it's so very, very different in how overwhelmed they were. And that was a seasoned farmer, not a flower farmer. But I'm just saying, this is not because we just don't know what we're doing. We just don't know what the system is yet, right? So more realistic is half of an eighth of an acre, which would be a 25-foot by a 50-foot garden. Y'all, that's a lot. That is still a lot. And I'm kind of harping on this because when I was traveling and speaking across the country, talking to flower farmers and speaking to lots of master gardener and garden club groups, I could see the wheels turning when I was telling them how small they needed to start their home cutting garden. And I went on to say, you can make it bigger, but those are the people that quit and throw in the towel. When you start small and really nurse every flower you can get out of that space, it makes your garden more productive, happier, and healthier. And you succeed, right? So go small, go small. So, and I know this is the question, we get these kind of questions all the time. How much would that produce? No one can answer that question for you. Nobody. You have to start, you have to plant a garden and grow it. I mean, y'all, there are so many variables. Like, for instance, what's the state of your soil? What is your skill level? Do you know when to plant and when to plant? Do you water or don't you water? Do you mulch? Don't you mulch? Do you know what I mean? There are so many variables, and you shouldn't even be thinking about that part of it. You should be finding out who is your potential customers, and then how much garden can you grow and manage, right? So this is like a perfect second step to, after you're like, okay, I do have some places to sell flowers, right? Now, how much can I grow? Y'all, you just have to jump in and do it, and nobody can tell. Anybody that gives you an answer is guessing. I'm telling you, they're guessing. Grow for a year and then you can estimate, but I think estimating is a waste of time. I mean, sorry, that's just we never did that. We just grew as much as we could in a small space, cut every bit of it, and then attempted to sell all of it. And that's pretty much what we actually did, right? So I hope that this kind of affirms you if you're the person that was going to start small, but you see everybody else going large and you're thinking you're going wrong, friend, you are on the right path. I just hope this gives you some realistic jumping off points, right? Because I know that it's so difficult to scroll. It happens to me too, y'all. You see something somebody else is doing and you're thinking, oh my gosh, should I do that? You don't. You don't. Start small. Not only do we have to figure out how to start and fund and run a business for the first time for the many of us, which that's a huge bite right there. But think about this. We are actually growing the product that we're going to ask customers to give us money for. It's not like you're just going to call up and order, like think about my warehouse business, our online garden shop. We call up and order more of the product when we need it. I just have to pay for it. You're actually growing that product that you're asking customers to pay you for. You can avoid these self-made disasters. Don't plant a full-time garden with part-time hours available to give to work on your business. Remember, you do not have to plant it all in the first season. And I want to just mention, because I was looking through the Cut Flower Handbook, just brought back to my mind, and the Cut Flower Handbook is actually for flower farmers, and we also included gardeners in that, right? That overplanting takes as many gardeners out of gardening as it does taking flower farmers out of farming. On the very first page of my book, the Cut Flower Handbook, I share how the size of a cutting garden that a person decides to plant and grow tells me how successful they're going to be, right? I mean, smaller is better, y'all. The person that says, yep, I'm going to stick, the home gardener that says, I'm going to stick and I'm going to do a 3x10 cutting garden for the first year and just see how it goes. Those people come back the second year with a vengeance to have a little bit bigger garden and to grow some more stuff. The people that went straight to big are the people that say, oh my gosh, it is so much work to have a cutting garden. I'm just buying flowers, or I'm going to go to the farmer's market, right? So it's not just farming. It's the nature of gardening. It's because it pulls us in, right? And this is just based on my years of experience of watching people start and quit, start and quit, start and give up and throw in the towel. Going overboard, which we all have a tendency to do that are drawn to this gardening gig, right? It's really the beginning of the end, because it's really hard to see this when we're in the weeds. And it's a choice that we make, that we have to live out. Are you a full-time or a part-time flower farmer? Are you planting a full-time or a part-time garden? Friends, I hope this just kind of opened your eyes, because I truly believe this is where the first cut happens in people coming into flower farming. They just fall in head first, not knowing. And I hope it, opens some doors for you. So friends, remember, you can learn about everything that we're doing over at thegardenersworkshop.com. I appreciate your support. And I especially appreciate if you drop a review, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and tell a friend. That's what it's all about, friends, right? All right, folks, until we meet again, ciao.